Let's see what we got here. This one is from Jason. How can someone go to hell for committing crimes if he was predisposed to do them biologically? Determinism, genes related to criminology. Our friend Jason here is dropping a philosophical question. If everything is determined, if everything you do, guys, this is a very well understood thought in philosophy, okay? All philosophers, we all agree. We all agree to this. Now, I'm going to say something. You guys might be like, Coach, that sounds weird. That sounds... No, I'm telling you guys, at the highest level of thought, they all agree. Everybody agrees to this. One philosopher said it best. I'm forgetting his name, but he said, look, you either agree with determinism or you don't understand it. Determinism basically says, if I could put it in a nutshell, they're saying, look, you always succumb to your highest pleasure. Whatever is the greatest pleasure for you, that's what you're going to do. And your pleasure is determined by your genetics, and B, your environment. If I know everything about my son's personality, if I know everything about him, and he walks into 3 flavors to choose from, chocolate, strawberry, or vanilla. I know everything about my son. His environment, he only has 3 possible choices. I'm his father. I know everything about him. I've watched him grow up. I know how his mind works. Let's say some philosophers argue, okay, if you have the point of view of God, you know everything in the world. You know every single motion of every atom in the world. I'm gonna get to this point a little bit later. You know what he's gonna choose. Does the fact that he has a predisposition to loving chocolate more than any other flavor, and the fact that those were the only items for him to choose, does that mean that he had no choice in the matter ultimately? Does determinism mean you have no choice in the matter? Now, there was a man named Isaac Newton. He gave us the 3 laws of motion. And when he gave us the 3 laws of motion, it gave us all a paradigm shift. All of us started converting to determinism. All of us, everybody, every thinker around the world started saying, hey, we are determinists. Now, before Isaac Newton, there was another great thinker named Imam Ghazali. Imam Ghazali said the same thing, only about 600 years before. Imam Ghazali said, look, human beings are just puppets on a string. Why is that? Why do you say that? Well, the Arabs had something called a water clock. I shouldn't say Arabs, okay, because they weren't all Arabs. I should say the Muslims had something called a water clock. A water clock is basically they use water to create a sequence of events, a chain of events, a causal chain that's eventually going to ring a bell. It's going to ring chimes. And that's how the Muslims knew it was prayer time. So they would fill the water up and estimate how much water they would need because they wanted to ring in about an hour or 2. Or 5 hours from now, or 7 hours from now. And Ghazali in his memoirs, he talks about how the whole world is a sequence of events, one event pushing another. And he says those sequence of events are pushing our very thoughts. He goes, your thoughts, in a sense, he was talking about how they're a mechanical byproduct of all the things going on in the brain. Think of dominoes striking one another. This sequence of events, a ballet of events, it all comes down to a chain reaction of events. And these events started long before you ever existed. He didn't know anything about genetics, but he was alluding to the fact that we're always doing what is our greatest desire. And we don't choose what our greatest desire is. So give me anything. I remember we were talking about this in university, and one girl came up and she protested and she says, no, I prefer Coke, but I drink Diet Coke. I don't always succumb to my greatest desire. And, I raised my hand to answer her. I was like, well, your desire to lose weight is your greatest desire. It overcomes your desire for Coke. So you chose Diet Coke, even though you like Diet Coke less. But your greatest desire is to lose weight. Not that it's the best way to lose weight, but in her mind, that she drinks Diet Coke, she's going to lose weight. Ultimately speaking, you're always choosing your greatest desire. And your greatest desire is a byproduct of 2 things. 1, your genetics. And 2, your environment. Now, even the atheists, okay, it's a very Muslim idea. Like if you read the Quran, I'll give you guys, I know a lot of you guys listening to this are atheist or Christian or Jewish or you're Buddhist or you're something else, but I'll tell you something. In the Quran is a heavily, incredibly deterministic. The first thing God creates in the Quran is the pen, like meaning, if you were to write a movie is determined. Like there's a script. Those actors on the screen are not improvising. They're reading a script. It's all planned. We know how the movie's going to end. We know every scene. We know how many shots this guy's going to fire. We know exactly the word. That's how this world is. Like our daily lives are scripted. It's determined by what? The laws of nature. Things that are pushing you, the causal chain of events, the 3 laws of motion. Guys, even atheists agree to this. What's his name? Richard Dawkins. He says, look, we dance to the beat of our genetics drum. Our genetics are drumming. Our genetics are drumming a beat. And you dance to it. You're also a puppet. Like Ghazali said 600 years before. Actually more. 1,000 years before. We dance to the beat of the drum. The drum beat of our genetics. Everything is genetics. They boil it down. Like the questioner here says. You have a gene for crime. Should we punish you? Now, I'm telling you guys, this is such a Muslim idea. Okay, when a man was captured for committing a crime, he came to Omar bin Khattab, the Khalifa, the king of the Muslims, and he said to him, don't punish me. I'm determined to commit this crime. I had no choice to commit this crime. And I love the response from Omar bin Khattab, one of the greatest figures in history. Remember, he's a determinist. Muslims were all determinists. We're all hardcore determinists. He said, you're right. It wasn't your, you have no choice. This was your destiny to commit this crime. But he said to him, we have no choice. We're determined to punish you. We're also determined to punish you. We have no choice in the matter. Now, what does this all mean? Like, coach, how could you say, I'm drinking this water. I feel like I'm deciding to drink this water. Physics tells us, guys, if you don't know the philosophy of physics, stay silent about what I'm about to say, okay? Find me any philosopher of science and bring him to me and see if he disagrees about the next comment I'm going to make. They will not disagree. Bring me a philosopher of science and he will not disagree. If you don't know anything about philosophy of science, be very humble if you try to bring up a point against this, okay? Because this is very well established. For me, reaching out and drinking this glass of water, a physicist would tell you we could have predicted that. This is Pierre-Simon Laplace. Read the writings, the essays of Pierre-Simon Laplace. They call him the French Newton. Guys, I mentioned this on Joe Rogan and the whole internet broke. And all these internet morons. I got a lot of emails from a lot of PhDs praising me and a lot of emails from a lot of dummies cursing me. Guys, this is very well established. Now today, maybe people are more aware of it, but 4 or 5 years ago when I mentioned it on the internet, for some reason, nobody knew. It's a very well established idea. Now, how do we reconcile the two? This is a question I get all the time. Guys, there are various ways, but I'm going to tell you guys one way that I find very compatible and easy to understand. Thing about The Simpsons. You've all watched The Simpsons. You remember the scene where Maggie, she's driving the car. The car turns left and Maggie's turning left. And then they show you a scene of Maggie turning right. And then they zoom out, they show you the car turning right. And it gives you the illusion that Maggie is driving. And then they zoom back out and you see, no, it's the mom driving. The mom is driving and Maggie is just in sync with the mom. And she's honking, beep, beep, at the same time. And it's just synchronized. When I reach for this water and I drink it, my desire inside, that will, okay, we live in the world of the mind. The mind is not the brain. The mind is that thing there, the ghost in the machine. Some philosophers will refer to it as the ghost in the machine. That thing that we can't put in a test tube. Like right now, I'm thinking of that glass of water in my mind right now. If scientists were to open my mind right now, split my brain open, they wouldn't find it. If Leibniz says, look, imagine you were really tiny, go walking around inside the brain, you wouldn't see that glass of water. However, me, coach, here, I'm seeing that glass of water. Where is it in space and time? Philosophers, we don't know. But George Berkeley, another great thinker, he says, look, esse percepi, to be is to be perceived. If something is perceived, it exists. I'm perceiving in my mind right now this glass of water. I'm looking at it in my mind. Where is it in time and space? We don't know. We call it the realm of the mind. It's a great mystery to thinkers. It's a great mystery. That inner workings, my mind, is completely disconnected from the fact that I grabbed this glass of water and drank it. I wanted to drink this water. And my hand and that volition, that agency of mine, are disconnected. Just like when Maggie was driving. It's really the mom it's really Marge that's doing the driving. It's not Maggie. Maggie's steering wheel is not connected to the system. Maggie's steering wheel is inert. This idea is called pre-established harmony. Okay, it's a Leibniz idea. I like it very much. I think it's easy to complain. There's another model that also works. It's called occasionalism. I won't get into it because it's a little bit complicated. It's more about like how cause and effect would work in a dream. But I don't want to get into it because it's going to be too much of a tangent, too much of explanation. I've talked about it in the past. I'll talk about it again in the future. Both of these worldviews are compatible. They're compatible in my opinion, and also these models are both extremely possible. One of them is from Leibniz. One is from another Muslim thinker named Al-Ashari, a very famous philosopher, thinker. And he deemed occasionalism. It's a sad thing that most Muslims don't know about occasionalism. It's a very, very sad thing. Very sad thing. However, it's one of the most brilliant thoughts, in my opinion, in the history of thinking. When I reach for this glass of water, my inner state, whatever you want to call it. You want to call it the soul, you want to call it the mind, you want to call it consciousness, whatever it may be. We have no empirical data of this thing. Now remember, your inner workings of your mind is the one thing we have direct access to, we cannot deny. However, we can't prove it scientifically. There's no scientific evidence for it. The only reason a philosopher, another philosopher or physicist or scientist will believe me is because he's having that personal experience. It's complete bias. That personal experience of yours is telling you, hey, you want to grab that water, and then you reach out and you grab it. It's either occasionalism or it's pre-established harmony. Now Leibniz said, look, when they asked him, how could these two be so perfectly timed? It's like God playing billiard balls. He set a causal chain. He set a causal chain. He set off a causal chain because he knew what you would choose in the future. But because he knows what you're going to choose in the future, it doesn't mean you didn't choose. That's the important key. Is this thing within us is outside the causal chain. It is not tied to the causal chain. It is not affected by our genetics. Our genetics just affect the outer shell, the body, the flesh, what we know empirically. It doesn't touch the soul. The soul is not in any way affected by the causal chain. Your genetics don't create your thoughts. Our consciousness, our spirit, our soul, whatever that thing may be, the one thing we can't deny, but also the one thing we cannot prove scientifically. That's why when people ask me, is science absolute? I give them a resounding no. Philosophers, we give them a resounding no. Science is not absolute. What does it mean, is science absolute? That means, is everything that can be known, is it only known? Like, do we only need science? If we know science, we know everything. There's nothing else missing. Like, we're not, there's nothing missing in our epistemology. Like, we can get to absolute truth. The answer would be a resounding no. The answer would be a resounding no. Suppose you live in a world of perfectly scientific robots. They have no consciousness. And you try to prove to them consciousness, you would be unable to. There is no logical argument and there is no scientific experiment you could produce that would prove to them you have a mind or a soul or consciousness or whatever you want to call it. So lo and behold, why would you consider that consciousness is part of the causal chain? It's not observed in the causal chain. It's not observed in the causal chain. So we can say, we can safely assume we can posit that maybe it's not affected at all by the causal chain. And the other great arguments of why it's not. Hence, you have free will. There is a detachment from the causal chain. Because here's the thing. The causal chain is predictable. If you had the velocity of every atom in the universe, this is not my words. These are Pierre-Simon Laplace's words. And he's relying on the findings of Isaac Newton. He's saying this because of Isaac Newton's 3 laws of motion. He's saying, look, the whole system is predictable. Just give me the velocity of all these atoms. If I can compute at the level of God, I would know where your hand's going to be in 10, 20 years, 1,000 years from now. I'll know what your hand or the molecules or the particles of your hand, where they're going to be, what they're doing. I don't need to know anything about your personality. I'll tell you what you're going to do in the future. Yes, that is true. Even the atheists believe this. However, my volition is detached. So the greatest thought experiment I can give you is watch the Simpsons intro. I think I'm doing this. I think I'm doing that. But really, my volition is detached from the causal chain. Ultimately speaking, if God didn't put that in a causal chain, my volition, my desire to do something won't manifest. It won't manifest. And I have a lot of theories on what Islam means, what peace means. It has a lot to do with this. But most Muslims never got to this level of thinking. Most Muslims never understood this. Determinism is originally a Muslim idea. It's originally a Muslim idea. And now today, atheists and theists have wholeheartedly adopted it. As a matter of fact, anybody who rejects this idea, they're dismissed in the high circles and the highest levels of philosophy. You're dismissed. You're seen as somebody who simply doesn't understand. You simply don't understand. There is no, guys, I'll tell you something. In philosophy, they tell us there is no break in the causal chain. There's no empty space in the causal chain. What does that mean? It's all out there. It's all fully explained. We don't need you. The you, the I, we don't need it, guys. We can observe the causal chain. We'll tell you all about it. The only reason they believe it is because they're having a personal experience of it themselves. That's why I will tell you that consciousness, the soul, the spirit, whatever you want to call it, that alien thing within us is from another world. It's from somewhere else. It's not of the empirical world, this world, the world of elements, the periodic table of elements. It's not part of that world. Now, in the Quran, the Bible, what does it say? It says, well, God took Adam, took him from the soil, the elementary particles. The periodic table, he took the elements, he forged a body, and he breathed into him a spirit, a soul, whatever you want to call it, the ruh. Now, what is that thing? Well, it's divine. It's something extraterrestrial to the empirical world. Now, one great Muslim thinker, he wrote the first philosophical novel in history called Hayy bin Yaksan. And there's 2 introductions to how it's a story about, it's the story of Tarzan. The story of Tarzan was actually based on this story. Some young kid who grows up in nature. He's raised by a doe, a female deer. And there's 2 stories about how he got to that island. And basically, it's Ibn Tufal's way of telling you, look, human beings might have come about naturally, or they might have been put on the earth in an alien sense. I don't want to get too much in this topic, but he was just basically saying, look, to Islam, it doesn't make a difference because it could be either or for us. He's a great scholar of Islam, great thinker, very renowned thinker. I think he did a great job explaining Islam, determinism, explaining the soul. He did an incredible job, but he did through a story, which I found fantastic. And not only that, he wrote the first philosophical novel in history. Hats off to him. Salute to him. He did something so incredible, and he gets no credit for it. It's really mind-boggling. Brother, I hope that answers your question. I know it was long-winded, but it's a very complex question. I could have taken it in so many directions, but I try to keep it in a nutshell and make it easy to understand.